So we started the show today, if you're just joining us now, with the big story, which is the fact that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his wife, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau, are separating after 18 years of marriage. The story broke mid-morning, I would say, and there's been a lot of reaction to it. We started off because this was one of those things we discussed, saying, look, this statement, and I'll read it to you and understand why we're a little leery about bringing it up to begin with, because I think we both understand this is obviously not an easy situation. But here's what it says. This is Prime Minister Trudeau announcing it on his Instagram feed at the same time as Sophie Gregoire Trudeau. And it simply says this: Sophie and I would like to share the fact that after many meaningful and difficult conversations, we have made the decision to separate. As always, we remain a close family with deep love and respect for each other and for everything we have built and will continue to build. For the well-being of our children, we ask that you respect our and their privacy. So again, worth reminding you, there are 3 children involved here: a 9-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 15-year-old. They've been married for 18 years, and they're asking for privacy. And I said before we even brought this up, I think we need to step back a little bit before we start trying to understand why this is happening and what the political ramifications might be, and recognize that, what? It's a tough time.
Absolutely, we have to be cognizant of that, but the rumor mill, you can't stop the rumor mill from swirling. You simply cannot. And like I said, the moment this was announced on Instagram, the disparaging comments began immediately, instantly. I think it is interesting to note, just of historical importance, that this is only the second time that a sitting prime minister has separated from their wife. And of course, the other time was Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau. That was back in 1979 with Maggie Trudeau. It's interesting.
So look, tough enough, as I said, anytime a couple goes through something like this. Obviously, when you're the prime minister, just, that magnifying glass is about 1,000 times stronger. Sure. So we wanted to get a little bit of a take on this from someone who's been in politics for a long time and is usually, talking with us about it. And that's Tom MULCAIR, who very graciously said he'd come back today. He's on his vacation right now. But
second time we're bugging him on vacation, but big story.
It's a big story.
Yeah.
Tom, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Good to be with you.
I'm not sure where you start with this story, Tom, other than to say, yes, it's private and it should be that way. But as Natasha said, it's political at the same time. It can't help it being that.
Sure. But I think that anybody who's in politics right now is simply thinking about the family, or at least they should be, because I can't see any of his political opponents trying to make anything of it. I was not surprised, but a bit distressed to hear Natasha describing what was already happening on social media. I guess that's inevitable. But if you've been around politics long enough, you know the stresses and strains. And Aaron, I liked your image that, yes, you're already under a magnifying glass when you're in politics, but it's 1,000 times worse when you're the prime minister. Every step, every slip of the tongue, everything that you do, everyone you speak to, every selfie you take, it gets analyzed, it gets dissected. And, after so many years under that particular magnifying glass, I'm sure it had its effect. Now, in the general population, it's a tragic statistic that about half of marriages wind up breaking up the way this one did. So it's not something exclusive to politics. But I would say that having been around the game, as you mentioned, long enough, it's particularly difficult for families. And he's got 3 children today who are still, the oldest is still just an adolescent. And, they've been part of this with them all along. They know what they've gotten into. But I just hope that it works out well for them and for those kids, because they've given a lot to the country. You can agree or disagree with this or that or the other policy. Good human beings, good parents from anything anyone can see, and 3 kids who seem to be doing okay. So let's hope it continues that way for them at least.
Yeah, and as someone pointed out, by the way, when we first brought this up after 2 o'clock, because the news broke fairly late in the day, at least this morning, and someone said, let's recognize that there are children involved here, right? They still go to school. There are people out there who will notice what people are posting online, and you have to be very cognizant of that fact, and obviously a lot of people aren't or don't care.
Well, it's the don't care part. I mean, that's the awful world of social media, and that's why, if you want to survive, stay away from it as much as you can, because it can attack anybody anytime. But I think that the Trudeaus are used to it. Very classy statements were put out today. And a year ago, I think a lot of people are interpreting something that Sophie Gregoire Trudeau said on Instagram a year ago at their wedding anniversary, and I think it bears repeating. She was already signaling, that they'd been through some choppy waters, and so I guess a lot of people are not completely surprised, to see this happening. But again, it's a moment where you just get to reflect on the fact that people who get literally pebbles thrown at them by people who disagree with them go through a lot, and at the end of the day, sometimes they pay a very heavy price in their personal lives as well.
I have to say that I like you, it was somehow surprising, even though we had been hearing rumors forever. And I mean, whatever weight you want to give those
Sure.
rumors, I have to say I'm very impressed, like you said, with the approach that they seem to be taking. They've pledged to raise their kids together collaboratively, cooperatively, and they're still planning to go on vacation together next week as a family. And then that has some people questioning, why now then? Why announce it now, Tom? Could this have remained a private issue?
Well, I think everything is connected to the political life. Again, a family, a couple breaking apart is not exclusive to politics, but there are considerations here that go beyond strictly the family. So if Mr. Trudeau, for example, decides that he wants to stick around in politics, then he's got to start clearing the air. Because, as you say, there's already been enough speculation about the state of the union, the state of their couple for some time now. And I think that that's part of what had to be clarified. And so them taking the high road and being respectful and taking care of their kids and being around together with the kids, it's all to their credit.
I'm wondering, Tom, as you describe that, is this a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation where if you don't come out publicly and do this and figure, well, it's no one else's business right now, we'll work this out either in a month or in a year or after the next election, people would give them hell for not having done that?
I liked what Natasha said before. I mean, rumors are worth basically nothing except when they start to come around and around with different angles every time. I went to the press gallery dinner right at the beginning of the summer in Ottawa, and those rumors were already rife then, and they were getting passed around and embellished and told over and over again. So I guess that at some point there had to be a way to talk about this publicly and then pull back. I mean, the end of their request was, please, give our families some space. And I think that that's an absolutely fair request. And I think that even though it's also fair to comment and analyze and understand what's going on here and put it in the context of the Prime Minister of a G7 country and what effect that could have on his abilities. And, going forward, I think that it's only fair to remember that Trudeau's been at it for 8 years now as Prime Minister and years before that. And they've paid a heavy price, and I think that this is part of the price that you pay sometimes when you're in politics, and respect that, and do give them a bit of a break.
I will just point one other thing out, and I found this fascinating. We got quite a few texters saying the same thing. You may not be a fan of Justin Trudeau, but in the event that any political leader, any opposition leaders come out and use this for political fodder, that's reason enough not to vote for them. I'm just curious what you think.
Good luck to anybody who tries to even touch that with a 10-foot pole. I remember there was an issue involving one of Mr. Harper's sons, a party. He was a fairly, a teenager, 18 or 19 years old, something like that. And it became an issue, something involving, young people drinking. And I got asked those questions in a scrum in the House of Commons coming out of question period. And I pushed back so hard against the journalists. I said, from everything I can see, Mr. Harper and his wife Lorraine are doing a great job of, raising two kids, and leave their personal lives out of these discussions. And I just pushed back and I refused to go any further. So, you really do have to respect it. And they're all in that together. I mean, those pressures exist for Pierre Poilievre and for Jagmeet Singh. They exist, and they're dealing with them. So I think that there's going to be a lot of empathy there, and certainly no judgment, and certainly no attempts to make political hay out of it.
And as a final question, though, are there any? I mean, what would be the political ramifications here, if any? Or should we not even be bringing that up?
Well, no, it's a fair question. I don't see that many political ramifications. I remember Mr. Trudeau once explaining that he had a special relationship with Canadians, and it's easy to understand. He was born, into this the equivalent of a royal couple in Canada. Pierre Trudeau and Margaret Sinclair, and he was. A lot of Canadians feel that they've known him since birth because they have. And so that's part of it. So there's going to be a lot of personal feeling there, a lot of people being empathetic, I hope, and caring and understanding. And I think that they deserve nothing less.
All right. Tom, again, I want to thank you for taking the time today. Enjoy the rest of the time off, and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Talk to you soon.
Mr. Tom.